Been far too long since I've featured Norsca in a battle, so here we are, putting them through their paces against the Chaos Dwarfs once again, up against Shadow 2000, and let's go ahead and take a look at the builds. I'm coming in hot with Wulfric the Wanderer. Definitely a risk to bring him up on the Mammoth. I mean, he does have a crap load of HP, but he also is very vulnerable to getting blasted by blunderbusses because he's such a big, expensive target. For the rest of the build, I've gone relatively wide with 5 Marauder Great Weapons, or sorry, yeah, 4 Marauder Great Weapons, 4 Marauder Berserkers. Got a nice Hound Force with the Beasts of Tashnar, Ice Wolves, and Poison Warhounds, so nice combination of speed debuffs and anti-large, along with 3 Marauder Horsemen throwing axes, some additional AP and flexibility, Lore of Metal on a Chariot here. We've got Searing Doom and Final Transmutation for Shadow's Chaos Dwarfs if we swing on up past this enormous pipeline pillar thing. He's got a front line of Goblin Laborers, second line of some Chaos Dwarf Warriors, Infernal Ironsworn, got an Iron Demon, Jatan the Black leading the way. Did forget to bring a caster, but that's okay. He's got some Dwarf Blunderbusses. Excuse me, Orc Laborers out on the flanks there, and some Wolf Raiders with bows and spears on both sides. So let's see how it gets on. This map's pretty interesting. It does have some terrain blockages here with this giant infernal pit, and again, the pipeline tower burning off the excess oil up here, something I don't really know. I love the aesthetic of the Chaos Dwarfs, though, personally. That sort of evil industrialist dwarfs aesthetic is just fantastic. But anyway, if I take a peek under the pipeline here, you can see that the Hounds and the Marauder Horsemen are going to kind of form up here with some supporting infantry. I've gone wide enough that I can kind of send a couple of infantry around here while still engaging in the front line. So we're going to charge Wulfric straight up with the Mammoth. And some Hobgoblin Archers in here as well. Should be able to get some good focus fire. Yeah, you can see them already focus firing in some very bloody shots from the Iron Demon there. A little bit of a mistargeting. I could have gone much more efficiently down the line, but I waited on that Lore of Boats cast, but it's all good. A little bit of Searing Doom also for me. He kind of hits Wulfric a bit there, but also it's a quick tear route on some of those Laborers and Hobgoblins. Take a look over at the other side here. Just easily blending these Laborers, and the Raiders actually are just getting straight out traded. The missile block chance of the Horsemen's shields, of course, Throwing Axe Horsemen do have a missile block chance, would help them out there. A little bit late on the reaction. Those Wolf Raiders are going to get it and cause some damage, but their overall low HP means really not too worried about how the Marauder Horsemen will trade. Iron Demon, though, is causing some problems. Already come in and got a little bit of damage and is just generally being used well as a chariot here. It's also got a little bit of shooting, as you saw earlier. Also got my caster completely bogged down in the Infernal Ironsworn. I mean, they're on par with Ironbreakers in terms of mass, so he's going to cast a little Searing Doom to try and bail himself out there. But if I grab the Ironsworn's card here, 250 mass, I'd have to compare that to other infantry. I don't know off the top of my head, but Jatan's going to go ahead and net Wulfric in here. Very dangerous situation, as I haven't been able to occupy the blunderbusses due to them being in this little hot gates situation. I haven't been able to, fully develop this flanking attack here, although I am winning out generally against the Wolf Riders. There's units coming back from route that are kind of helping to block the way a little bit here, so ends up being a tricky situation. Wulfric takes a lot of damage. Jatan's net also debuffs melee defense, so Jatan himself is hitting him pretty hard here, plus the blunderbusses and everything else. Mammoths only have 70 armor as well, so it's not like he's going to be super tanky to the shooting of the Hobgoblins. They have good enough damage, certainly, to get through after being poisoned. Another Lore of Boats cast there, goes right down the line of Chaos Dwarf Blunderbusses, get some really nice damage, but Wulfric has definitely taken an absolute beating. And the Iron Demon playing bumper cars with the Shaman Sorcerer, like shooting him and bumping into him, actually terrified him away, so that's not great for me. And this other Hobgoblin flank that I didn't really respond to at all did come in and is getting some nice damage on the Marauder Horsemen here, helping to contribute some damage on Wulfric himself, so definitely having some problems, but my own backline pursuit of the Hounds and the Marauder Berserkers and everything, I'm going to try and clean up as much of these routing units as I can, especially like the blunderbusses here, who we've now managed to rout. But the Ironsworn are definitely going to be a big problem. I'm going to have to dedicate some magic damage to them. We're going to throw a little bit of a... Ooh, does that go up and over the pipeline there? A little bit of a final transmutation just to do some damage on Jaten. To be honest, I probably should just save for Searing Dooms, but because my Shaman Sorcerer is so low, I figured might as well just burn the magic before he routes, so I can actually get some damage in. Wulfric also finally is able to catch the Iron Demon momentarily. It kind of got bogged down in the Horseman there temporarily, and now it's going to be on the move again, but in that time, Wulfric was able to get some solid swings, and with his charge speed, should be able to stay out in front. I also love the MLG routing Shaman Sorcerer block that was totally planned for, because you can definitely plan for that kind of thing anyway. Yeah, Wulfric gets a few more attacks there, but he's got to be careful not to get exposed to shooting to that effect. We're coming in here, mopping up those blunderbusses, like I said. A little bit of overchasing here by these Ice Wolves going after those Hobgoblin Archers, but just wanted to make sure all those peripheral units could not come back. Another Lure of Boats does some friendly fire, but also gets a solid chunk off of the Infernal Ironsworn. And the poor Shaman Sorcerer is just teetering right on the edge right now, so let's see if he's able to contribute any more magic. Right now, basically neck and neck. Jaten's been staying true to his little infantry line here, just holding this hot gates, and they're now... Ooh, by going even further over. We'll just get a nice zoom in, watch these Berserkers fight against the Infernal Ironsworn. Got some Marauder Great Weapons mixed in there as well. The Ironsworn are much too tough for them in melee, wounded as they are, so we're going to drop some more hot, flaming lead from the sky, Searing Doom, their heads... And their heads are already lit on fire, so I don't know how much of a difference that actually makes, but still, the Iron Demon obviously counts as large, so even though my hounds have low leadership, I'm going to move in with the Beast of Tashnar and try and just get us around and see if we can finish this thing off. The low melee defense means that it will take pretty decent damage. I mean, it does have quite a bit of armor, but you can see the health kind of dropping rapidly there as the hounds attack. Marauder Horsemen also have enough throwing axe ammo that I can kind of try and whittle through the Infernal Ironsworn. I mean, they've lost a lot of models, over half their models on all of them. So it's definitely a problem right now, but we'll see. We've still got the Ice Wolves coming back in. They are quite healthy, and yeah, everything else is pretty much done. My Beasts of Tashnar are decently healthy, but the low leadership certainly is going to hurt. I need to take out that Iron Demon if I want those units to have enough leadership to be able to contribute in a meaningful way. Also got to be careful. Wulfric gets caught up by the Hobgoblin Raiders here, and the Iron Demon's going to shoot him, rather, or the Mammoth. Assuming the Mammoth is a him. It's an assumption. Does have suppression, so it's going to debuff the speed momentarily, and it actually does a pretty good amount of damage, too, if it's able to shoot consistently. Should be able to shoot on the move, but currently it's not working, unfortunately. But Ice Wolves come in. They're going to bail Wulfric out, finish off these Wolf Raiders. And the Iron Demon still survives, as do the Infernal Ironsworn, but they're facing a tough task. There's one reasonably half-health unit of Berserkers they've got to fight now. Throwing axes, of course, still doing whatever damage they can. But Ice Wolves on the Iron Demon, again, don't have great leadership, so they're likely to be terrified away relatively soon, but any damage they can get is good. My opponent does a great job, though, screening through his own troops consistently. I'm very impressed with how he's been able to keep this Iron Demon alive. Hasn't quite paid for itself on raw damage, but tactically the terror routes have been very useful for him, and this Infernal Ironsworn as well. Infernally tough, I will say. Very hard to kill. I've had to just throw resources at them continuously, but at this point, feeling pretty confident. Jaten's going to throw down one more net on Wulfric, but of course he has his own Hunter of Champions active. That damage resistance is definitely helping Jaten very considerably, but you saw the train blow up there. The Iron Demon finally gets throwing axed to death. And despite the fact the Norscan infantry is really just struggling, even the Berserkers here are struggling to do any meaningful damage to the Ironsworn, Hound Swarm, and the last of the throwing axes hopefully will be enough to finish it. Jaten also is taking significant damage. Probably took some hits from the Berserkers, especially while that Hunter of Champions is active. Go ahead and throw one more fight or die just to shore up leadership, make sure we can finish this thing off. And all of a sudden, the balance of power flips very quickly as Jaten and the Infernal Ironsworn finally break. So, very good game to my opponent. This is probably the best of the series of games that we played, and it was definitely a fun one. It's definitely a very fun and interesting matchup. I do think had he brought, you know, even like a cheap min caster with just a couple of spells and nothing else, might have turned out differently for him. A little bit of spirit leeching on like Wolfric there, or you know, a little bit of cascading fire cloak maybe in the late game. I'm not really sure, really anything to be honest, but still is a very fun matchup, and I do think this is one that needs exploring a little bit more, but something tells me the Chaos Dwarfs have some really strong tools. Norsca also, though, has very good mobility. They're somewhat weak to fire damage, but they can also shut down the relatively short range of the Chaos Dwarfs pretty easily. Pretty good at attacking wide as well, which seems to be somewhat of a weakness for Chaos Dwarfs. So it's definitely an interesting matchup. I want to play it more in the future, but Wolfric certainly ends up paying for himself despite all the damage that he took. Was able to keep him alive. Same thing with the Shaman Sorcerer. You know, definitely a bit of a glass cannon, risk-reward. Gets blasted, but comes back, gets damage. Marauder Horsemen were super clutch in the late game, and the Hound Force actually was one of the biggest things for me. Hobgoblin Light Cavalry isn't actually very good for the cost. It's pretty underwhelming, actually. We'll show some comparisons in just a minute, but I figured this Hound Force would be able to trade pretty decisively, especially with the Beasts of Tashnar and the Ice Wolves involved, and winning that mobility fight was pretty key for me, although it did take a long time to develop. Had Shadow been able to continue bringing back his routing units, I probably would have had some problems in the late game and might have actually had Wolfric get finished off, which would have been a huge problem. But Infernal Ironsworn, definitely a very strong unit. I would probably take two in this matchup, honestly. They're kind of like Demi Halberd. I don't know. Maybe I'd go with a bit of an elite tall build here, honestly. Like the Infernal Ironsword, maybe a couple Fireglaves, and then lots of Laborers to support them. Not really sure. But Iron Demon actually also gets damn close to paying for itself. Pretty fun stuff. Yeah, I love this unit in general. I think once it's fixed so that it can shoot on the move, it will actually be very good. We'll see. Yeah, the blunderbusses I was able to limit well enough. One of these Wolf Riders came back and actually got some really good cost-effective damage. The rest of the build, I mean, a lot of units are going to struggle to pay for themselves. A few key ones do, like these Hobgoblin Archers, but overall, I mean, I guess this one Wolf Raider does as well, but let's talk a little bit more about Wolf Raiders in general. Just wanted to show you guys some comparisons, why I think they're not the best. So if we go ahead and pull up the Chaos Dwarfs here, and I'll grab the regular Wolf Raiders. So on the face of it, they look pretty good, you know. 40 charge is definitely solid. They've got decent weapon strength that gets increased by 25% on the base weapon damage, which is probably an extra, what, 5 damage there. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's not amazing, but it's all right. Got a, you know, shield, 35% missile block chance, which is okay. Also gain leadership if they're nearby a Chaos Dwarf unit, any unit with Contempt. I guess that's Wool Centaurs as well. But the biggest issue is this right here, is that HP. So if we go ahead and compare to, let's say, Elven Light Cavalry, we'll go ahead and pull Dark Riders or Dark Elves, right? Go. And yeah, if we compare the shielded variant, again, very similar stats, but 1200 less HP, which is a huge amount. I mean, 1200 is an absolutely substantial amount of hit points. So really that means that these guys are not going to be trading necessarily well at cost. Like, they're the same cost as Illyrian Reavers, which is another Elven Light Cavalry that, again, has way more HP. So a little bit of a problem, not to mention, of course, Illyrian Reavers also get martial prowess. They have more armor. Yeah. Well, more armor than the Dark Riders. Even a little bit more HP as well, but then, obviously, compared to the Raiders, yeah, 1400 extra HP. It's such a huge difference that the Wolf Raiders are very punishing for mistakes, and their cost is high enough that it does kind of hurt to lose them, especially if you have quite a few of them and they all die at once. It can be really a huge setback to your build, potentially, from a tactical standpoint. So just feel like maybe a little bit of an HP buff and a little bit of a price decrease, like minus 50 cost and extra 10 HP per model or something, them an extra 600 HP, just to kind of cut the difference between them. Not that they should be as good as Elven Light Cavalry, but they probably should be a little bit better than they are right now. Yet even then, we compare to technically non-light cavalry, right? We come in here and look at Norsca, who I was just playing. Ice Wolves at 600 cost. Also consider they're lower in number, right? Only 48 models, but they've got 38 charge, 48 weapon strength, right? So significantly more damage, and 2,600 more HP. So the Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders, although tactically they're super useful, and they're nice to have in comparison to something like Order Dwarfs, for example, right? Like if I had these guys for Order Dwarfs, I'd take them 10 times out of 10 most matchups because they are just tactically super useful, but really not very cost effective, and probably would rank them in the bottom 5 of light cavalry. So that's it for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.